Hey, what's happening? It's Bill Smith, and I did a video earlier today about this letter right here. Okay, we've all kind of latched onto this, and these QAnon posts are all coded. They could mean lots of different stuff. Sometimes they mean more than one thing. I've seen that happen. We've had proofs in the past. Some of it is saying things that you can expect in the future. Future proves past. And he's trying to get our attention out of all this stuff. So the autists that we are, we spend all of our time trying to figure out what that is. What does that mean right there? That P in brackets, that's got to mean something. So mess with the best, die like the rest, save the best for last. P. Now, in the last video, I made the case that that's Mike Pence. Everything about Mike Pence is conjecture at this point. It's not, we don't really have any proof. Okay, Mike Pence was the head of Indiana. There's a giant pedophile ring going on in Indiana. There's a guy named Tory Smith who did like 200 videos. He's pretty damn convincing, although it's ultra tin hat. Talking about Mike Pence, doing some really, really naughty stuff. And Mike Pence is an extremely devout Christian, and he really follows the rules to the book. And for a politician, all right, for someone who's gotten to where he's got, having friends like Jeff Flake, there's lots of little clues and indicators that really kind of ring my bell. They kind of set off the alarm in my head, and it makes me wonder about Mike Pence. Is he legit? Is he not? And here's the fact. I don't know. I don't know either way. I have no idea. So the other thing, so this P, okay, the community has pretty much narrowed it down into two people. It could be Mike Pence, or it could be the Pope. Now, this video, we're going to talk about that a little bit in the spirit of fairness. So if it is the Pope, I want to make sure it's covered. You're introduced to this material. I've already done very, very, I don't know, I guess it's kind of a short, but a video on just the level of Satanism in the Catholic Church. Now, full disclosure, I was born Catholic. I went to Catholic school. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, I like the morals and I like the values, but the logic has just gaping holes in it. So I'm a Christian. I pray every day. I meditate every night. I really try to think about what God wants for me and what God wants for the rest of us. And in that way, it's a lot easier to be selfless about yourself. But I don't really prescribe any rules. I think that if you're doing the best you can and you have peace in your heart, and God weighs the heart, He doesn't weigh the actions, and I truly believe that. So with that, let's get right into it. So this points to a Q post that's backed up online, and it's talking about Nervi Hall. I mean, it's just awful. It's a snake pit. That's what the Anon was saying, and Q called it out and said, yep, that's what we need to be doing. So I'm going to introduce you to Nervi Hall. This is Nervi Hall. Now, even from the outside, it's shaped like a snake's head. And this building was built back in the 1970s after the Vatican II. So like, 12, 14 years after Vatican II. And Vatican II, if you go read about it, there's a lot of minor nuances. To the casual observer, it looks like it's all good stuff. They're modernizing the church. But when you look at the impact that document had, a lot of people really disagree with it. This is the inside of it. Okay? You can go find yourself a bigger picture, but you are inside a snake's head. Ugh. It just gives me the creeps, It just freaks me out. It's this scaled skin on the roof, the two snake eyes on the side, these two fangs up front, and then right there in the middle is this horrendous Pope's chair. My good golly, look at this. I mean, it is the most evil thing I could imagine you sitting behind. I'm speechless when I look at this stuff. It escapes me how this went unnoticed for so long. I've known about this for maybe 5 or 6 years. But this was built in the 70s. You would think that people all over the world would have pictures of this. And look at the way these people all dress, like black and red, with the Pope in the middle and white, and standing in front of this statue. They say that's Jesus rising, and man, I don't know, that doesn't look like Jesus rising to me. I could not invent a more evil chair. It's a disgusting building. It truly is. It truly is a monstrosity of a place to be. It just, to think that the Pope has been, whoever's been sitting as Pope since the 1970s has been giving their personal masses here for that long, unnoticed, just blows my mind. So I have noticed that a lot of things have changed in the last year. You used to have to go dig for this stuff, but now when you go type in Pope's chair, it's like the algorithm knows that this is what you're looking for. I mean, look at that. Like, I don't even know what this chair is, but it looks like he's sitting on some kind of like Game of Thrones chair. We're not even I'm going to show you the broken cross here in a second too, just so you get it. But I mean, look at that thing. That is something of nightmares. It's not something that makes me feel good. And let's not even get into this other thing where there's this, okay, fine, let's get into it. Because that was in the Q post. So I'm not going to bother showing it, but this is at the Temple Mount. Okay, it's one of Satan's greatest victories, this site is calling it. And right there, the upside-down cross symbolizes mockery and rejection of Jesus. Necklaces are worn by many overt Satanists. And we've seen this. We've seen these, I think Chelsea Clinton has got an upside-down cross that she likes to wear. So they try to explain this away. There is a quote, a holy reason to have this. Something about the founder of the church getting crucified upside down, right? But to the world, that's not what that means, okay? To the world, it means mockery of Jesus. That's what it means. Now, this site details a lot of stuff that I'm not really going to cover, but it has like pictures of the Pope. There's look, what is that, John Paul II kissing the Quran? Like, these are not good things. These are not good things at all. And it's interesting to note that it has not started with Pope Francis. This started way back when. And it's been going on for a long time. And I really truly think that Vatican II was kind of like a marker. It was the marker of the church really being taken over from the inside. So this is a close-up of that gigantic thing behind the... Oh, man, I have a hard time looking at this. I can't look at this for very long. But people say that this right here symbolizes the serpent's head. So it's all about projecting Jesus, but really praying to the serpent, which would make sense because it's in a freaking serpent building. Now, there's two separate prophecies that talk about this. Okay, there's the Order of the Pope's prophecy with Saint Malachi, and most of you already know that. And then there's Nostradamus, who you never really understand until it happens. But I think both of them talked about how the last Pope will be black. And in our stupid racial minds, everybody's like, oh, well, it's going to be an African American or somebody from Africa. But that's not what it means. When they talk about black, they mean the black Pope. And typically, okay, the Jesuit Pope, so the leader of the Jesuit order inside of the Roman Catholic Church, is called the Black Pope. Now, it's interesting because the new Pope, the guy that we got now, this fake and fraud, they're all suspicious at this point, but he is the first Jesuit to ever be elected Pope, and it's a really big deal because the Society of Jesus, the Jesuits, all right, are pretty much the nefarious arm of Catholicism. Like, for ages, these are the people that infiltrate. Okay, they lurk in the shadows, and they're not honest, and they take a different oath. And you can go read about the oath. Maybe I'll try to link to it. But the oath basically says that they are not going to act morally because the ends justify the means, and they can lie, cheat, and steal, and infiltrate, and really conquer from within. And this is how This is basically the military arm of the Catholic Church. So to get a pope that comes out of that sort of thinking, okay, that line of thinking, that level of dishonesty, it's a bad thing. It's a very bad thing. Now, what's interesting about this is that there is some evidence that shows that Clinton, Soros, Podesta inspired a coup against the last pope and got him to step down before his time. It's the first time since like the 13th century that's ever happened. And it was just such a big deal that it just blew people's minds. So to get this coup and then get the first Jesuit pope behind him with these really unscrupulous morals is a bad thing. It's very telling. And this is what they're talking about. Okay, this is John Podesta and this Sandy Newman woman and Tara McGinnis, all on Gmail, okay, all on private accounts talking about a Catholic Spring. Now we know what the Arab Spring was. It's an overthrow, right? That's what they're trying to do. And this email string is extremely telling. Now, it starts with this person named Sandy Newman from Voices for Progress. Now, anytime you see voices, anything with progress, it's a bad thing. And she says, "Hi, John. There needs to be a Catholic Spring, a little democracy, and respect for gender equality." And they're going to frame this around contraceptive coverage. Talks about how the bishops will undoubtedly continue to fight it. But they want 98% of the people who are using contraceptives to help. They're trying to like cause a ruffle here. They're trying to bring some things to bear against the nuns. And she's asking straight up, how would one plant the seeds of the revolution? Or who would plant them? And this is to John Podesta. And he responds with this. He says, "We created Catholics in alliance for the common good to organize for a moment like this one." So if you are donating, if you're involved with this organization, Catholics in Alliance for the Common Good, you really need to rethink what you're up to. It's a John Podesta thing, okay? Which is funded by Soros. Interesting. Now, one thing that hasn't come up yet on this channel that is I just think that this is the start of Pizzagate. I think that this is where Pizzagate comes from. This is how people figured out how to torture something to get it to release adrenaline, let that blood out, with the basically oxidize the adrenaline dumped blood, form adrenochrome, and I think this is where it comes from. And the fact that this thing called blood libel shows up in like the 1100s and has never gone away, it just has never gone away, okay, this seems connected. Now, I don't have time to go into this, but one thing that's important to notice, I talked about Vatican II. There were some child martyrs, and they call them these pretend child martyrs here, whatever. I will talk more about this in the future, but here's an example of just one, okay? Now, at Vatican II, there was a whole list of these child martyrs. These had been going on for centuries, and I think there was about 30 of them or so, between 20 and 30, 35, that were set up as Catholic martyrs, and people venerated them, and at Vatican II, they were stripped of that. So they stripped the martyrdom from these children, and these children were basically tortured and crucified in these blood libel rituals. And the Jews say, no, that's blood libel. Okay, you can't say that we're doing it, but it didn't come out of one culture. Okay, it came out of multiple different, distinct, separated populations of people. This thing popped up like a whack-a-mole. And they really had to get behind it. There's hour-long documentaries devoted to just this subject. So, if we truly are saving the best for last, something that's been around for 1,000 years, thousands of years, and now it's been codified, and now it's part of the Catholic Church, installed by Soros, it would make sense. This is Bill Smith. Thanks for watching.